When I think about America, I think it's a real land of opportunity. We celebrate your ability to go from rags to riches. It's a place that celebrates people who seize opportunity, and nobody seized opportunity more than Barry Seal.
I'd like to open a bank account.
Oh, bless you.
It's just an outrageous story. No, darling, you listen to Daddy. You go do that. We're going on an adventure.
No, we're not going on an
Like the time we went camping in the parish?
Well, not actually, but because every adventure's different.
Gary Spinelli wrote the original screenplay, and it's based on a true story, but it's not based on a book. It's all original reporting.
Central America, right now. We're building nations down there, Barry. And we could use someone like you.
You're CIA.
The summer of 2013, was looking for little hidden pieces of history, small stories that affected larger global events, and I came across the Mina story. And I always wanted to do a gangster film. Goodfellas is one of my favorite movies, and was always on the hunt to try to find my version of that. And once I started researching CIA's involvement in Mina, the same name kept popping up, was this Barry Seal character. And as soon as I found Barry, I knew I had a movie.
Barry, where are you going?
I thought it was sexy and edgy and dangerous and fun, and just thought, wow, we don't know this story.
The appeal of American Made to me is that it deals with sort of power paradigms and drug smuggling, and it's a very dynamic period in American history and in global history.
Congratulations on your promotion, General.
The part that appealed to me most about his story was not that he was just a drug smuggler. It's a much more complex story than that, about a guy who worked for the government and helping to fund the Contra war effort. And I'm from Washington, D.C., and I grew up during that time period. It was really just a fascinating time period and a fascinating event in our nation's history. So it was a way into those events through the eyes of a character that no one is really that familiar with.
Well, I figured you'd have to show up, see? I just know too much. Schaefer sent you, right?
As I'm reading the script, I'm just enamored the character of Barry Seal, and I'm thinking, this is a story I really want to tell. And then suddenly Oliver North makes an appearance. And I know Oliver North because my father ran the investigation into the Iran-Contra affair, and Oliver North was his adversary. And I realized that this story that I was falling in love with was a story I knew really well, but I was seeing it from the perspective of a pilot on the front lines. So it's really an amazing experience as a filmmaker.
Doug and I worked on the script for about 5 weeks before Tom came aboard, but I kept hearing whispers, Tom Cruise is interested, Tom Cruise is interested, and then it came to a point where Doug told me, he's like, okay, Tom wants to do it. I was like, great, we're making a movie now.
What I loved is that Barry really looked at his life as this adventure, one that he wanted to live to the fullest, and he just couldn't help it. It's who he was. Very much loved his wife and protected his family as best he could, but he just couldn't help himself. He just had to live this life. When you talk about someone living on the edge, he didn't even realize he was on the edge. He was just living life and not really, of course, thinking of the ramifications of what's gonna happen. I think they know that I am CIA.
You're not CIA. You're a drug smuggler, Barry. Louisiana PD was notified of your arrest here. They're gonna raid your house at 6 a.m. They're gonna pick up Lucy, bring her in for questioning.
You know, from all accounts, you know, when you talk to the different people from the CIA, the DEA, people are just like, oh, you know, they just love Barry. He was just charming, and everyone just thought he was the greatest guy. How about that?
I think the way that we're portraying Barry in this film is that he is larger than life. If he were around, he would probably be like, yeah, that's what I want. He's like, let's Hollywood it up a bit, you know? And Tom Cruise is probably the best guy ever to portray him because there's no one more larger than life than Tom Cruise.
He's a force in nature. I think that's self-evident. And so there is that drive behind everything. It's just about getting the shot and getting the right thing for the movie, and I very much enjoy working that way.
I feel like Doug Liman and Tom both have a childlike enthusiasm when it comes to filmmaking and telling stories that they're passionate about and things that they want to do.
Oh, Jesus! ¡Está por vos!
I think of myself as a workaholic, but Tom is on like a whole other level. And we were living American Made 20 hours a day. Tom and I, we could commute to work together in the morning, commute home at night, we could have dinner at night and talk about the movie, and it was a really intense experience.
When you have that kind of drama, that level of adventure, and the unique humor that we have, you're threading a needle the whole time, and I love that. Doug, in many ways, he is a rebel. He just can't help it. It's who he is. He has his own unique view of storytelling and what interests him. And I have to say, when you look at his movies, it fascinates me. And making films with him, the choices he makes and what he finds is just exciting. There's times you just can't take your eyes off the screen.
Shoot the gringos.
What?
Shoot the gringos. What's that? Shoot the gringos!
America, from its beginning, we were rule breakers, right? We broke away from England. We're sort of fiercely independent. You know, Barry Seal was recruited by the CIA because the CIA recruits people, they look for rule breakers. By definition, they're looking for people who are willing to break the law for the CIA and lie to people. Be careful what you ask for, because they really got it when they recruited Barry Seal.
That is what this film is. It has that spirit of this hero, anti-hero, this outlaw, really.
I think that's why Barry's story is sort of quintessentially American, is that it's a story of excess. The right hand didn't know what the left hand was doing in our government, and that provided an opportunity for Barry Seal to come in and take advantage of both sides. That's really what's quintessentially American, because we have consistently throughout our history seized opportunity and made the most of it.
Hot damn. Oh, honey, what's yo? If this ain't the greatest country in the world.
Okay, guys, here we go. Lock it up. And rolling.
And action!
The movie is such a unique adventure, and you're a pilot, I'm a pilot. You know, obviously that interests us, the whole story, the world.
We wanted these characters to be original. We wanted, like, the CIA, you've done the CIA, I've done the CIA. It was like, how do we do a CIA that's really unique and matches the uniqueness of this whole story?
This movie is a wish fulfillment. You know, he is this anti-hero that, I mean, you and I talked about it. We don't condone what he did, but it is a wish fulfillment. You can't help it.
Because he sticks it to the man, sticks it to the system, and everybody's got some of that in them,
I
right?
know, everyone has some of that, and he just lived without boundaries. And it's a time in the history of aviation that's very unique. Nothing like this could ever occur today.
It really was the Wild West. Like, flying in the 80s, that was sort of the end of the Wild West.
Yeah.
You were still free then.
You could get away with stuff.
Yeah.
You know, and you felt how he pushed those boundaries. We went to Colombia. You and I literally went out to the jungle. And remember, the studio's like, you guys can't go out to the jungle. There's tigers out there. Do you remember the whole thing?
There's gorillas.
They just made a list of this stuff, and you and I looked at each other and went, oh, this sounds awesome. You know? We're very excited to be shooting in Colombia.
Estamos muy emocionados de estar rodando en Colombia.
And appreciate your help.
Y les agradecemos por su ayuda.
We're gonna have a lot of fun today.
Vamos a divertirnos mucho hoy. All right. Silencio, por favor.
And action!
Regalos de mí.
The thing about filming in Colombia is they all knew Barry Seal. There was that one pilot who said Barry Seal stole an airplane from him. Right, that he was showing Barry Seal an airplane and say, take it up for a flight just to see if you like it. And Barry just took off.
Yes, and flew it to America.
Yeah, and you know, how do you not love Barry for that? Right, this guy just never saw an opportunity he didn't take.
That was Barry.
Yeah.
And people loved him.
Fuck! Yeah, this guy loved Barry. Barry stole an airplane from him.
Yes.
He still loved Barry.
Oh my God, baby, what happened to you?
I'm okay. We're moving. We're interested in this character and who is this character and what is the love story within this.
Barry, it's 4 a.m. I'm not moving.
The original script, Lucy, your wife in the film, was kind of like an appendage.
Yeah.
And right from the beginning, you were like, no, this has to be the dominant relationship of the movie. The original story, you'd been lying to your wife the whole time, and we're like, well, you guys can't be partners if you're lying to her, and pushed us out of some of the more cliche places a story like this could go. On some levels, you know, Barry really is like a role model for me because he's living life to the fullest, he's taking chances, he's not playing it safe, and like, that's how I would like to, you know, think about my film career.
That is like your film career because you haven't played it safe. You feel passionate about the stories that you tell, and you're looking for different ways to tell them. The way that we made the movie, we actually had to live together when we were going through it because the workload was so intense.
We shared a house.
Yeah. We found a big house, and we're like, why don't we all stay in the same house? You, me, and Gary, the writer.
Yeah, as long as you could have your own separate kitchen.
Yeah, no, not separate kitchen, separate portion of the refrigerator.
Yeah,
because
yeah.
I didn't want your junk contaminating all of my food.
Yeah.
Now you can see there's like in the fridge, there was my side, which you could tell like.
Because it was like nuts.
Things that were edible, and then his side, things that just kill anything. It's amazing this man's still alive. Medicine should study you.
Let me see your face. Yeah, you're good to go.
Oh my God, I'm not supposed to eat on the set. And now you're here, I can't eat.
That's not true. I just stand here like this.
There's no way to eat this neatly. That's what I just said before you walked up. She's like, no, you're safe. Tom's not around. We didn't have a housekeeper.
It's a house. We can do our own chores, man.
But I'm a little messy, and you're a little OCD.
That's not true. You are a lot messy, and I'm just more organized than you. So anyone who's organized...
No, but you believe like a
anyone
pot.
who's
You believe a
organized-
pot after it's been
No,
cooked
let me
with
tell you
should
something.
look like it's brand new.
No, look, you did not know how to clean properly.
No, I had to
looked
teach
used.
you. It looked
looked used. You're like, oh no,
It looks
just clean
used.
it up.
I used to like see you coming, and I'd quickly take the dishes and hide them, so I wouldn't have to clean them.
And Gary,
But you would always find
Gary
them.
was like, he wasn't gonna do it because he felt like he didn't eat as much food as we did. So he
Gary, you called him Princess Gary
We started calling him Princess Gary.
because he wouldn't do his chores.
Yes, exactly.
He had excuses why the chore chart
He had
wasn't
to write
fair.
the movie or something like that. We're like, look, you have to direct it. I'm acting in the movie. This is a teamwork, man. This is part of it.
Let's go, pictures up.
I don't know if anybody got that. Reset.
Thank
Yeah.
you. Really thank
Thanks.
you for this.
It was a great
movie.
adventure.
I loved it, and I can't wait for us to do it again. I
Yeah.
really cannot wait, my friend. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Tom, good job today, man. Well,
Really funny.
That time period, the music, the clothes, how it was shot, and the world is so engaging. Every day, Doug and I were just finding the tone of these characters. Very unique characters. I so invest in the world that he creates and in these characters, and they have a very unique humanity to them.
Are you going to prison?
No, ma'am.
Because I will take the kids. I will go right back to working for Kentucky Fried Chicken.
Lucy Seal is played by Sarah Wright Olson, who's a lovely actress. She's channeling Bonnie from Bonnie and Clyde. She has impeccable timing. She's funny, she's warm, she's genuine.
Oh my God, baby, what happened to you?
I'm okay.
Barry, you're missing a tooth.
We're moving.
She's sort of like the heartbeat of their relationship. She is an anchor, a stronghold. She holds the family together and has that strong Southern woman rock that the man leans on mentality. And it's fun to be able to play with that in a lot of different ways in this film. Logistical support for airports.
That's right.
Okay. And you're calling it IAC? What do you know about business?
I believe in really strong female characters in my films. My mother's really strong. In American Made, I was excited to challenge myself with having Barry Seal have a relationship at the beginning of the film that's really kind of like a trophy wife. I was like, I want to lean into them and see if over the course of the journey, through the crazy adventures that Barry Seal and his wife Lucy go through, can we get to a place by the end where there's respect and love and the kind of deep relationship that I aspired to do in my previous movies. And Sarah Wright, she's so strong and she really comes from the South. And you're playing against the biggest movie star in the world, and Sarah brings the kind of strength and holds the screen, and it's just incredible.
No. No, I ain't going nowhere. We're a family, and we're staying together.
Honey, listen. Baby. It's gonna be all right. You trust me.
Fuck no. Hey, sis! Caleb Landry Jones plays my brother, JB, in the movie. He's that, like, troublemaker that you always try to help but doesn't necessarily always get it. Staying here, you're getting a job.
Or, you know, I could just give you some folded cash. You go and do what you want.
I was told by Tom that JB
is a good kid, but he just can't help himself. And I agree to an extent that he can't help himself from doing the wrong thing, even though he knows it's wrong. For some reason, he just keeps doing it.
What's up? How you doing?
The other key relationship in the movie is with Donald Gleason, who plays Tom Cruise's handler at the CIA. And Donald was an amazing partner for that because he plays somebody who could be very dangerous to Tom.
Anyone finds out about it, family, friends, even Lucy. It's Lucy, right?
Yeah, that's right.
That'd be a problem.
But he's in a cubicle, and the most dangerous thing out there is someone working for the CIA who's in a cubicle who wants to move into an office. And Donald Gleason did an amazing job, and from a cubicle is a true force to be reckoned with.
I mean, they say they're the best reconnaissance photos they have ever seen.
Does this mean I get a raise?
You're doing great.
Working with Tom and Doug together is strange. They have their own way of working, and it is very much on your toes, very much changing everything as you go along, and not just the shape of the scene. It could be the shape of the character or what the character does for the film.
I ain't say nothing about guns.
It's a war, Barry.
That's a kind of an exhilarating combination of really difficult and really fantastic. When it's really going, you can feel it.
We're expanding operations, Barry.
Well, hey, boys, how about my phone call?
Barry is a Zelig-like character where he really did cross paths with so many household names from the 80s, ranging from George W. Bush to Manuel Noriega, Bill Clinton.
Miss Sabota, I have Governor Clinton on the line.
Oliver North.
The Sandinistas are burning the American flag in the streets.
All right, then. This is character-based throughout, and finding all of those layers and the unique humor that we have, all the cast we had was exceptional.
I feel like we're all the lucky recipients of this amazing collaborative partnership and team that is Doug and Tom. Making it better with every single actor that's come on board, really tailoring it for that actor. There's absolutely suspense and real danger and scope, but we're having fun being on this adventure and this ride with Barry and everybody who's lucky enough to be in his periphery or along for the ride.
The state of Arkansas is gonna rip the bark right off of you, boy.
American Made was creatively one of the most challenging films I've ever worked on. You have Barry Seal at the heart of it, who's this amazing character, but it's kind of a big, expansive story that takes place over 6 years, so how do you condense it down into a riveting 2-hour journey?
Things are in motion here.
What the hell am I gonna do?
I suggest you get your family out of Louisiana.
Well, where am I supposed to take them?
We got a place for you. Mina, Arkansas.
We found a small community about 45 minutes north of Atlanta that has been untouched by development in the last 25 years. Buildings themselves very much lent itself to the early 80s. So the bones of the town were perfect for our mythical Mina, Arkansas that we're recreating.
This place has got a lot of charm.
Ball Ground, Georgia is the most charming, rustic town. I think it feels very small town Americana, Norman Rockwell, the last place you'd think Contras would be training and drugs and arms would be shipping in and out of.
The fun of making American Made and telling a story set in the early 80s is, as a filmmaker, I love the music and the wardrobe of that era.
Having the wardrobe from 1976 to 86 gives us a great spectrum and range to play with, and as Barry and Lucy go from more modest to really amassing this wealth and this lifestyle allows us to really show that in their clothes and in their looks.
Okay, you can stop now if you want, because believe me, shit gets crazy from here.
Tom and myself and Gary Spinelli, the writer, decided we would share a house in Atlanta where we shot most of the movie.
We were looking for Barry's house in the movie, and we're gonna build a set, and we're like, the film is so practical. You know, everything feels like you're just in that environment. And Dad comes over to the house that we rented. After about 15 minutes, they went, you know, actually, this could be Barry's home.
The renovated house that appears in the film is our house. We didn't just live together. The crew was filming in our house.
I would just wake up in the morning and walk downstairs to the crew. We'd shoot, and then at the end of the night, you know, Doug, Gary, and I'd be like, all right, guys, get the hell out of here, you know, because this is our house.
And cut.
So they'd finish shooting, take a shower, a break, eat, and then they'd come back and do story meetings. It would have been grueling for anybody, but not for them, because they had such a great creative chemistry with one another.
It was kind of like a film school boot camp teamwork experience unlike any I've ever had.
I love that too, that you just volunteered your name.
Yeah, I like that. Doug and Tom, I've never seen two people more prepared or more ready for battle in my entire life. Everything from the rehearsals after they wrap or the 7 a.m. read-throughs that they go through. It's like something I've never seen before.
Tom, good job today, man.
And then we went to South America for about 5 weeks of filming, which is sort of the opposite of, you know, filming in our own house in Atlanta. We shot all over Colombia, and we shot at these very remote airstrips because Colombia both doubled for where the drug cartels airstrips were. But the story also takes place in Panama, it takes place in Nicaragua, it takes place in Costa Rica. And Colombia has such amazing and varied terrain. We found airstrips and environments that exactly match those countries. And so we're traveling all around Colombia in sort of an armada of small airplanes.
That level of adventure, that's really the things that I love most about making films. And it is an exploration. You have to be willing to experience going into the unknown at times. And that's what this film was like on many levels.
Quiet in the background. Background action. And action.
Barry Seal. You have an interesting file, Barry. Top of your class in the Civil Air Patrol, youngest pilot in TWA history. You were going places.
Barry Seal is a guy who just wanted adventure. He was a guy that really wanted to fly, and he could fly anything.
Apologize for the delay. We're number 11 for takeoff. We'll try to make it up in the air.
Barry lived beyond the rules in a way that was very unique to that aviation time period.
That's platform 14 when it shells helicopters. You can disregard.
You know, now where everything's very controlled, the airspaces and contained, the things that he did and what those pilots were able to do, it was outrageous. And I'm a pilot, Doug Lyman's a pilot, and these things really interested us.
Oh, this is legal?
If you're doing it for the good guys, yeah.
It's awesome to have Tom Cruise playing Barry Seal, and Tom Cruise is so perfect for it, is that it enabled Tom to sort of flex his muscles as a pilot and an adventurer.
I don't think there was any question that Tom wasn't going to do all the flying himself. He's really committed to doing his own stunts. And I don't think I appreciated going into the film really what an extraordinary pilot Tom Cruise is.
With this film, everything you're seeing, it is me flying. There's no CG. You see me put the thing on autopilot and walk to the back of the airplane. That's exactly what happened. Like everything, I trained very hard with the flying, and that Aerostar is an amazing aircraft, and I flew the Cessna, amazing aircraft.
The plane stunt was fun. They showed me a video of what they wanted to happen with Tom doing it, with the plane flying over his head, and it looked cool, and then they told me that I was going to do it, you know, in that very positive Tom Cruise way.
You know, this airport, I mean, it's high altitude and a short runway, and you got trees and mountains on both sides. Is there somewhere else I could take off from?
We shot all over Colombia, and we shot in these very remote airstrips, and seeing it from the air and kind of having a little bit of the experience that Barry Seal had was extraordinary.
There are times we were flying just inches over the water, you know, because Barry's escaping radar, he's escaping enemy fire. So I got to fly an airplane like that, which was quite amazing.
Let's go, Andres.
Listo, entonces. ¿Preparados?
I'm rolling in action.
Acción.
We shot in a remote dirt airstrip called Araraquara that's 3 hours from the closest road. It's nothing but jungle. Tom and I wanted to get early morning shots there, which meant that we were gonna have to camp at the airstrip.
Literally, Doug Lyman and I slept in a tent, and we slept right by the runway. We had to fuel the airplane. We were up before the sun came up, had breakfast, and then took off flying into the jungle all day.
This is every current law enforcement investigation on the Gulf Coast. This should help you avoid all of them. You just fly where they ain't.
The true test of a pilot is putting down these airplanes into these really remote mountainous airstrips. And Tom not only did that, you know, during the day, but we also simulated landing at night, because as the war on drug escalated, you had to start landing on these remote mountainous airstrips lit by just pickup truck lights.
Doug and I, we didn't know a lot of times what we were going to get with the aviation, but we just wanted to imbue it with that level of adventure and freedom that we feel. As we're working, and I think that friendship that we have and trust, where we're willing to try anything and we push each other. I think it does imbue every frame of the movie.
My name's Aaron Seal. I am the youngest son of Barry Seal. I was 9 years old at the time of my father's death. My father was a different person and personality to just about everyone in his life. He could be all things to all people, and he used that to his advantage when he needed to, but that was also part of who he was. You know, I remember him as a very funny man, a very loving and doting father, a man that would give you the shirt off his back. He was a great pilot, and everyone that I've ever spoken to, they said he was the best. I've heard stories that, you know, from when he was a kid that his mother had told that when he was a very young child, he had got up on the roof with an umbrella of their home and jumped off with it because he said he wanted to fly. He would learn to fly at 15 years old. I had his pilot's license, I believe, by 16. You know, he just was a natural. It just came natural to him. I just remember always being around helicopters and airplanes. I remember times as a kid, we were flying over the Bermuda Triangle, going to the Bahamas, and we would learn about it in school, so the kids were talking about the Bermuda Triangle. Well, all of a sudden we get over the Bermuda Triangle, and my dad lets us know. Well, then the plane engine shut off and won't start back. You know, we start getting worried, and then he starts the engine back. That's something he would do a lot with us. He got to where we were used to it. We'd say, "No, Dad, we know you're gonna start it back." He would turn the plane upside down and do barrel rolls with us as kids, and we just got used to that kind of thing. It was standard operating procedure. One day, we were a field trip at the elementary school. Across the street, they had a vacant lot where my father was gonna take people on helicopter rides. And the kids had to sign a release form. Only about half the kids in the school, parents allowed them to, because for whatever reason, they didn't want their children in the helicopter with Barry Seal, but a lot of kids were able to. And what he did was he would just take the helicopter straight up and down. So it was almost like a roller coaster ride. He just go straight up in there and down real quickly. And the kids loved it. And when I was young, I thought everybody's father was a pilot. I didn't know, I didn't realize we were wealthy. I didn't realize we were as different as we were. And maybe that was one of the days that I started to realize, well, yeah, not everybody's father is a helicopter pilot and an airplane pilot. And I started to realize there was something different going on, though I wasn't quite sure what it was. My father was very generous. I can remember hearing stories at his funeral of people coming up to my mother that some people she knew, some people she didn't know, saying, you know, I just wanted to tell you, you know, I didn't have the money to put my kids through college, and Barry came and gave me the money to put my kids through college. Or a gentleman saying, you know, my business was failing, and Barry gave me $50,000 to save my business and wouldn't take payment back for it. Those kinds of things. You know, he was very giving and a very loving man, but then he had this side to him to where, you know, he wanted to be the one doing the giving. He would obtain the means to give however he had to. He was never violent or anything like that, but he did it in his way, allegedly smuggling cocaine. My fondest memory of Mina was one day I was homesick from school. My father was going up to Mina for the day, so I flew up there with him on the Fat Lady, which was the term of endearment for the C-123. But we flew up there on that plane because he was having it filmed for some news footage. Had a news camera taking, you know, video in the plane, taking off from the Mina airport. So I made myself scarce and went and played with a pack of wild dogs that I found. I asked my father for some money for the vending machine because the dogs were so hungry I saw them eating bugs off the ground. So he gave me a bunch of money and I fed the dogs. When I ran out, all the dogs left but one. So I wanted to bring her home with me. I named her Tailspin that day because her tail spun in a circle. And so I asked my dad, could I take her home? And he said, of course. Well, we weren't flying home on the cargo plane, we were flying home on my father's Learjet, which at the time was the best of the best planes, you know. And I heard the gentleman saying, Barry, are you really gonna let your son bring that mangy, you know, dirty, wild dog on the plane? He said, yeah, if Aaron wants a dog, he gets the dog. When my father was still alive, I was seeing hints, as I've mentioned, that we weren't the typical Joneses down the street because of you know, money and influence and, you know, aviation things and all that kind of stuff. But I didn't fully know exactly what my father got into until he was killed. I knew things were wrong, but I didn't know what. And after he was killed, a day or two later, family was at my house, you know, my mom's family and stuff, and comforting all of us, and came on the news where they talked about him being a drug smuggler that was killed. And I can remember turning to my mom and I said, Mom, is that true what they're saying about Dad? And she said, yeah, Aaron, it is. A lot of people have asked me over the years, did I think more of him, less of him? And it didn't change what I thought of him. He was my father, and he always will be. And whether he was President of the United States, whether he was, some people say a CIA agent, some people, you know, alleged drug smoke, whatever, he's still my father, and that doesn't change. I think he was a very brave man. I think he was, you know, he's still my hero to this day and always will be. My father picked out the epitaph for his gravestone, a quote he had read somewhere and gave it to my mother not long before he was killed, and said, you know, if they kill me, Debbie, this is what I want on my gravestone. The epitaph says, a rebel adventurer, the likes of whom in previous days made America great.